welcome to the show. Hi, I'm Randy Jeffers, and we are live from the entertainment capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. Well, we have a really special guest today. You do not want to miss 1 second of this show. We have with us Dr. Ronald Klatz, who is, I guess we could say you're the founder of the anti-aging medicine movement. You're the father of that movement. You're the guy who coined the term anti-aging medicine. You're the founder of the Academy, American Academy of Anti-Aging. I mean, my goodness, what don't you do?
Well,
welcome to the show.
Busy. Thank you, Randy. It's good to see you.
It's great to have you here. And
okay.
Let's just start by telling us a little bit about yourself, if you would.
Well, you're right. I'm the guy who coined the term anti-aging medicine. Back in 1991, I founded and I'm the president of the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine, which is the nation's largest preventive medicine medical society.
Wow.
We're actually an international medical society. We began in 1991 with 13 physicians, and we've grown since that time to an international society of about 28,000 physicians, scientists, health professionals from 120 countries around the world.
My goodness.
And before that, I was one of the founders of the National Academy of Sports Medicine, which has grown since 1986 to become the preeminent training academy for people who run health clubs and who train athletes, and especially professional and senior athletes. So we start off, or myself and my partner, my business partner, Dr. Robert Goldman, began in sports medicine, rehabilitative medicine, and we started off with elite sports performance medicine. And we realized that the same technologies that you use to make a great athlete, whether it be an Olympic athlete or a professional, a professional player of sports of one sort or another, is the same type of rehabilitative technologies that you can use on everyone. And what it means is a longer, healthier, happier life. And so we transitioned from sports medicine into anti-aging medicine, and now we're involved in regenerative medicine, rehabilitative medicine, rejuvenative medicine. We're also involved in stem cells, cloning technologies, a wide array and a wide spectrum of state-of-the-art biotechnologies that have to do with the very early detection, prevention, treatment, and reversal of aging-related disease.
Well, I know you do these big conventions. I know you do one every year here in Las Vegas. I know there's one in, is it Miami, where you do one every year?
Florida? In Fort Lauderdale, just north of Miami. Yeah, so those are two large conferences we do.
Yeah.
But the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine, the A4M, the abbreviation, the A4M has about 40 different conferences that we do all over the world throughout the year, because we're a medical society and we're a training organization for physicians, scientists, health professionals, and we've trained over 150,000 health professionals since inception. Actually more than that, that's an old number.
Yeah.
And so we do 40 of these conferences a year, but the Vegas is by far our largest in the United States. In China, we partnered with the Chinese FDA a few years ago, and we had 30,000 people there.
Wow.
But generally speaking, the Vegas show is the largest, and we expect 6,000 attendees this December.
These are medical professionals.
Oh, they're all medical professionals,
all doctors,
mostly physicians.
Yeah.
Now some are PhDs, some are pharmacists, some are nurses, but mostly physicians.
So you opened up this whole new genre inside the medical field, and you know, back when you first started this had to be quite controversial, because doctors are controlled by the big pharma, right? And they probably don't like new things coming along.
No, they don't like new things.
Yeah.
It's very sad. It's very interesting. When we first started, there was no controversy at all, because when you think about it, preventive medicine is just one big, fluffy, ball of love. I mean, what could possibly be wrong with the prevention of disease?
Right.
What could possibly be wrong with, eating better, living better, having better, having better habits,
Better lifestyle,
better
yeah.
lifestyle, not abusing yourself, not abusing drugs, eating a clean diet, more vegetables, less toxins in your environment. I mean, I thought this was mom's apple pie, and it really is.
Yeah.
And for the first 6 years or so, nobody much paid attention to us, except the media that we did get was 100% positive. It was just glowing. Hey, all doctors should be practicing this way. This is the most fantastic thing that's come along in medicine in recent memory. And I thought, hey, this is nice. Everyone's patting me on the head. Hey, good boy. Keep it up. Until we got noticed by I guess the pharmaceutical industry. And for those people who think that there's not politics in medicine, let me tell you, there certainly are. As a matter of fact, it's been said that there's more politics in medicine than there are in politics. And I wrote this book called Grow Young with HGH. It was about human growth hormone. And oh my goodness, I had no idea what I was up against. And we published this book, and it was an overnight bestseller because the story was so good, the science is so compelling. That hormone replacement therapy can, in fact, improve quality of life, and probably, though not proven yet in man, because people live too long to prove these things, so you look at animals, but certainly in animals, and the evidence is mounting for people too, that hormone replacement therapy will increase, not just improve the quality of life, but increase the quantity of life as well. Well, anyway, we published this book, and then the establishment took notice. And they said, oh, no, you don't. We own aging, and we own gerontology, and we don't want some young upstart physicians coming along and shaking up the situation. And there was an amazing turnaround that happened, where before I was the fair-haired boy, the prodigal son, and I was talking, goodness and light and apple pie, and the media loved to interview me. I mean, I was on all the networks, everything, including Oprah and Larry King. Didn't matter. I mean, CNN all the time. And because it was a great story. I mean, it was a win story. There's no downside. But anyway, when we started touching on drug therapies and started really getting noticed, the establishment said, no, you don't. And the big thumb came out of the sky and right on my head. And when I say my head, I'm talking about the academy and the industry. And there was literally millions of dollars spent in disinformation campaign to try and suppress the concept of anti-aging. And I won't go into the details, but there were some, dirty tricks and some nastiness and, a lot of some character assassination and things that were not pleasant. And but what we do is the truth, and the truth prevails. And anti-aging medicine has not just survived, anti-aging medicine has thrived. And we're bigger and stronger than ever. And there's really no way to stop it, because this is the future of medicine, and more doctors are practicing this type of medicine every day. And in the last few years, which is very interesting, since the high-tech sector and Wall Street recognized that anti-aging medicine is now this huge industry. Realize in 1991, very profitable.
Yeah.
Not so much for the doctors who were practicing. The doctors aren't becoming mega millionaires. That never was. They were always, the doctors were always in it for mostly the right reasons, to do better medicine, to help people, to get results. But for the pharmaceutical companies and for the manufacturers, dozens and dozens and dozens of new million-dollar companies coming out of that. And for the pharmaceutical companies, this is a huge new industry. And so in the last 5-6 years, biggies such as Johnson & Johnson, Google, Larry Ellison, Santa Fe, and many other major pharmaceutical companies, Bayer, have been investing billions of dollars into this industry, over $20 billion into research into aging-related drugs and therapeutics, because the demographics are so strong. Realize in 1991, when we got started, the demographics of anti-aging medicine were zero. Nothing.
Wow.
Zero. There was no such thing as anti-aging medicine. It didn't exist. But today, it's over $300 billion.
My goodness.
$300 billion is a serious marketplace. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. This thing is taking off because who doesn't want to live a longer, healthier, happier life with less fear of cancer, less fear of heart disease, Alzheimer's disease, and diabetes? All those diseases are preventable. All those diseases are more or less reversible if you catch them very early on.
You know, I was reading an article the other day about is it possible to live to be 500? And in that article, you probably read that article as well, but there was a gerontologist on there that from the United Kingdom that said he believes that the first person to live to be 1,000 is born now. It's already been, well, probably a little baby or something, but he believes that that's within our grasp. And
I'm not so sure that I'm in line with this guy. This guy makes, who you're talking about, makes a lot of wild claims, but
yeah, that's pretty wild.
Yeah, it is pretty wild, and I don't think the science quite supports it.
What if it's half? You know,
but age 200, I believe.
Yeah,
I absolutely believe age 200, and the Academy has been pretty much saying that. Look, this is from Science Magazine, the most prestigious publication, Science. Okay, that if you eliminate the 4 major causes of death, not eliminate them as far as get rid of them entirely, but just remove them as the major leading cause of death, which is cancer, heart disease, diabetes, and Alzheimer's disease, life expectancy in the United States would immediately rise to 100 years of age. Average life expectancy. That means 50% of the population will die before 100, but 50% of the population will die after 100. Okay, and we're already seeing that. And there, you know, in the West, the oldest living person, a lady in France, lived to be 123, Jean Calment, and that was about 10 years ago, maybe going on 14 years, 15 years ago now. But just recently published in the British newspapers was an individual who was well documented in Malaysia, who supposedly was 146 years of age.
Yeah.
146 years of age. Now that sounds incredible. But they looked at, you know, he had documentation from the government, and the guy was married like 20 times. And they looked into his marriages, and they traced it all back, and the numbers all fit. And at 146, you know what he died from?
No.
Suicide.
Oh my goodness.
He was in the hospital. He wasn't feeling good. They put him in the hospital, and he didn't like it there. He checked himself out, and he went home, and he just stopped eating. And they said, "Why are you doing this? You're 146. You're maybe the oldest man on the planet, and you could go on." He says, "Yeah, I know I could, but I don't want to, because everybody I knew and loved has passed, and my children are gone. My grandchildren, I never see them anymore. My great-grandchildren, I never see them anymore. So there's no one for me, and I've done everything I need to do here." And that's kind of sad in a way.
Yeah.
But that's kind of fantastic in a way, because that's the way I think many baby boomers, many people from who are alive today, not just baby boomers, but people who are alive today, they will have that option. I think it's much better to check out when you want to, just personal belief, not scientific, but I think it's much better to check out when you decide to, rather than to have something horrible like a heart attack or a stroke or cancer just take you out in a miserable, agonizing way.
Yeah. Well, it's good to hear it, because for a long time, I've had my life planned out to 120. That's because I have a 7-year-old. I'm 64 now, so I want to be able to... You're doing
something good for yourself. You look great for 64.
Well, I have to live to be 120 just so I can see my grandkids, so... But, there's also a story about in the Himalayas, the Hunza
right.
people. Yeah, they live to be in that age range, right?
They live well over 100, 120, some people say 130.
Yeah.
It's hard to... But the Hunzas, they never really developed good documentation. This fellow, there's stories of Indian yogas who lived over 200, and people in China, mystics in China who lived, into amazing ages, but the documentation isn't there, and so you have a hard time saying, well, is it just myth, or is it real? And when I was, a few years ago, I thought it was just myth and baloney. I didn't think that people, given the technology that we have, could live that long. But I've changed my mind. I'm seeing more and more people over the age of 100 and thriving at 100, not just kind of like hobbling along or being fed through a tube.
Yeah.
And so it's rather amazing what's happening. I mean, you're how old?
64.
You're 64, and I know that there are a lot of people who think that you were 54. I certainly would.
Oh,
okay?
Come on, you can say 44.
And there are probably people who say, but I'm a very harsh critic.
Yeah.
There are people who probably think that you're even in your 40s. I mean, I could find 40-year-olds who look worse than you.
Yeah.
Okay. Now the point is that you're at least 10 years younger biologically than you are chronologically, right. At least that from appearances. And if I looked at your blood, I bet that it would probably be better than that. I am about almost 20 years younger biologically than I am chronologically. And so are many people involved in anti-aging medicine, because they're living the anti-aging lifestyle. And the anti-aging dividend is what I like to call the longevity dividend in the United States is now about 25 years. If you look at people who are in the highest socioeconomic group, who are following an anti-aging lifestyle and are going to see a member of the A4M, a doctor who's trained by the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine, who are taking vitamins every day, who are leading a clean life, getting a little bit of exercise, and avoiding toxins, and most importantly, detoxifying. If you look at these people versus people who really don't take too much care of themselves, they just let things go as they will. They eat anything that comes along and not worry about toxicity and such like that. Their life expectancy is 25 years less than the people in the top tier.
Yeah.
That's a huge That's a huge difference.
Yes. Huge.
And so we're seeing that the people who are in the top tier are living 90.5 years of age, average life expectancy. 90.5. Average life expectancy in the United States is about 80 years right now. But if you, again, are lucky enough to be in the top tier, if you can afford an anti-aging lifestyle, if you can apply yourself to an anti-aging lifestyle, there's a big improvement there. And if you don't follow an anti-aging lifestyle and you just let things go along their merry way, you're just tossing away 25 years of life, which is an entire lifetime.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Just doesn't make sense to me, but it's a matter of education. I think people are getting it. And the naysayers, the people who were trying to poo-poo anti-aging, they more or less evaporated. They're still out there, but not nearly like they were before. And the misinformation programs that they were behind have pretty much disappeared too, with the acceptance of anti-aging technologies by big pharma, Wall Street, big technology companies.
The other day we were having lunch together, and as you may remember, I asked you a question. I asked Dr. Ron, I said, what, out of all the things you know about anti-aging, and all the new things that are coming about right now, what's the single most important thing that one can do? And do you remember what you said?
Yes, choose your grandparents wisely.
Yeah. So the genes are really
really
important. Yeah.
They're important, but they're something, but they're not everything. The good news is you can get around your genes. Excuse me 1 second. Do you have a tissue or something? No, it's dry in here.
Yeah. Well, we're in the middle of the desert here. You spend a lot of time in Florida.
Yeah.
Where you have that humidity and all that moisture there. Definitely a little different here.
Excuse me, I hope that doesn't ruin the show.
Oh, no.
You should be able to cut
This
that
is a
out
live,
pretty easy.
real show, so no problem.
Here we go.
No problem at all. So, in addition,
Okay,
though,
so-
besides the genes, though, what
Yeah.
are some of the things that we
Well, I
can
just
do?
want to say one thing about genes.
Yeah.
Your genetics your genetics contributes to your future, but genes are not your absolute destiny. You can get around your genes, okay? Just like people who have allergies can take antihistamines, People who have the gene for sickle cell anemia can take medication to reverse that. Okay, people who will have a genetic predisposition to this disease or that can, with early detection, can beat those diseases as well. As a matter of fact, if genetic disease is going to kill you, it will almost certainly kill you before the age of 35.
Wow.
So it's not all in your genes. But choosing genes wisely is very important because it gives you a big leg up. But that's really what drugs are for. Drugs are for to modify the mechanisms within your cell, okay, that are controlled by your genetics. So choosing your genes wisely is a good place to start. The second place is to avoid toxins in the environment. We live in a very dirty environment. It looks clean, but not really. There are many, many, many toxins in drinking water, even in bottled water. A lot of toxins. A lot of toxins in the air we breathe. A lot of toxins in the food we eat. Okay, so you have to be very careful about keeping a clean diet, living in a clean environment, making sure the air you're breathing is not filled with dust and particulate. We're finding now that microparticulate, nanoparticles, which come out of diesel exhaust and come out of all kinds of manufacturing that we never understood before, contributes to both heart disease, respiratory disease, especially respiratory disease, but kidney disease. Many of these chronic diseases that we're encountering is actually coming in part from the particles in the air that we inhale that go right through
the cell wall.
Cell wall and get themselves into the cell and enmesh themselves and sometimes attack even our DNA. And this is bad news, and it's something that you should be aware of and something that you should fight against. You need to clean your body. You need to give your body a fighting chance. So you need to be involved in a constant detoxification program. You need to be involved in a constant antioxidant vitamin augmentation program. Make sure you're eating good food that's fresh, that's loaded with vital energies and and vital nutrients, and give your body everything it needs to stay healthy and to fight against the challenging environment that we find ourselves in.
So, Dr. Ron, you mentioned that you've been on the Oprah Show and Larry King and CNN. You're just on every show probably there has been.
Maybe
over the
not
years.
every, but a lot.
So you've been interviewed by the best, but I really want to be the best. So to be the best, what question did they not ask you that I should ask you?
Oh my God. The things that I could tell you are things that would have to be off the record, because
just
like
us
I
here.
said,
Nobody's listening.
Nobody's listening. I understand that, but like I said, there may be more politics in medicine than in politics.
Yeah.
There's. How do I do this without getting myself in a small hole in the desert one evening?
Well, let me lay you off the hook then.
There are 60 doctors who have disappeared in the last 2 days. Alternative medicine doctors who have parted this world in the last 2 years,
Really?
thereabout, under suspicious circumstances. So it is not without risk to talk about certain things.
Yeah.
And I'd love to tell you about them, but
Wow.
it would be a counter my personal anti-aging program. But let me think of something that no one's talked about. I think the thing that nobody's really touched on is how much. Yeah, let's talk about this. This is safe and it's important. You need to be the captain of your own ship. You need to be the master of your own fate, and you are. Okay, if you give away your power to a healthcare organization, to an insurance company, to a hospital, to your doctor, okay, most of the time you don't even get to see a doctor anymore. It's astounding, it's scary. Most of the time it's a physician's assistant or a nurse practitioner. Okay, or someone at the insurance company. God only knows what their credentials are on the other end of the telephone. But if you give away your authority and your ability to choose for yourself then you are in deep doo-doo, because you will never see that maximum lifespan that God has given you. You will never see that second lifespan that is available to almost everyone who embraces an anti-aging lifestyle. You need to educate yourself, and you need to take charge. And I'm not saying be antagonistic to your doctor. You should love your doctor. You want to be your doctor's best friend, okay? Because you want him pitching and an advocate for your health. But it needs to be a partnership.
Right.
It needs to be a partnership. And you need to understand that you're a partner with your physician in your own healthcare destiny. And if you allow yourself to be passive, you're going to get what everybody else gets, which is HMO healthcare at best, and that ain't the best healthcare that's out there. You need a doctor who is going to be your advocate, who's going to care about you achieving not adequate health, but superior health. And that's really what anti-aging medicine is all about, is achieving superior maximum health care and performance at every age. And so I suggest that anybody who's listening to this, who's really concerned about living the good life, first of all, I want them to know that it's available. Second of all, it's not unaffordable, okay? 80% of everything we do in anti-aging medicine, you can do without a drug license. You can do with nutritionals and with non-prescription drugs, okay? But you want to find a doctor who's very knowledgeable, who's going to be your partner, and who's going to be your educator and your teacher and your coach and your advocate. Not someone who's going to say, well, we do it this way, here's the script, now get out of my office. I've spent 5 minutes with you, I'm already late for the next patient.
Right. And I suspect, doctors, I have a lot of friends that are doctors, and they're just like anybody, they're humans like anybody else, of course.
Very much.
But they're thought of by so many people as almost being godlike.
Well, maybe they used to be. I haven't noticed that lately.
But it's interesting how many people, they have to do what their doctor says, whether it's right or wrong. And when you're in the alternative medicine world, or healthy medicine, not all doctors get it right, do they?
Realize that there's amazing amounts of medical information that's being discovered and rediscovered and researched every day. And it's absolutely impossible for any one doctor to understand the full spectrum.
Yeah.
Okay, even if he's a super genius, top of his class, best physician in the world. Okay, even if he's Dr. Ron Klatz. But believe me, I don't understand everything there is, and I know a lot only because I'm fortunate enough to be at the top of an organization that is focused on new technologies, breakthrough technologies, and I have people underneath me, literally hundreds and hundreds of them, that are feeding data up the chain because we publish perhaps the best information in the world on preventive medicine. Our website, which is the official website of the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine, which, by the way, is a 501c3. It's a nonprofit organization, so we don't get money from the pharmaceutical companies. We don't get money from the government. We're completely supported by our membership. And so we have no access to grind, and the information we can present is as accurate and honest as we know it to be. But our website, www.worldhealth.net.
Worldhealth.net, okay.
Worldhealth.net. It's award-winning, and we've been doing this since 1996.
Wow.
We are the second oldest website in the world of a professional medical organization publishing information on healthcare. We're second only to, drumroll, second only to the AMA. And they beat us by 1 month.
My goodness. Wow.
Okay, and so AFRAM's been at the forefront of education, not just for physicians, but for allied health professionals, for scientists, and even for the general public. And this website is free. We put over $2 million in this website to date, probably closer to $3 now. and it's all a public service, and it's free and available to any of your listeners, anyone. We have a huge archive of literally, I think it's well over 100,000 pages of very condensed scientific information on all aspects of aging, anti-aging, preventive medicine, and even disease process. So if you are interested in the prevention of cancer or the prevention of osteoporosis or macular degeneration or any age-related disease, even hair loss, weight loss, whatever it is, if you want the scientific inside story on the clinical practice of these things, you can go to worldhealth.net and get pretty much up to the minute information on these various topics.
Wow, well, that is great information to know. I want to talk about some of the futuristic kinds of things that are happening right now that really are not in the future, they're right now. But before, I want to just touch on one thing before I do that. One of my early medical heroes was a guy by the name of Dirk Pearson and Dirk and Sandy
I
Shaw.
knew them well.
And I know you knew them well, and I think it was back in the 70s when I first started following them. They were apparently loved very much by Merv Griffin, if you're old enough to remember the Merv Griffin show, because he had them on there all the time. But when I saw them, I was mesmerized. I mean, I thought I'd found the smartest guy in the world. It just, I mean, it was unbelievable. The kinds of things they were saying back then. You know, nowadays, I mean, back then you didn't have the health food stores that you have now. You didn't have this, you know, the industry that you created. It's all different now, but tell us about them if you would.
Well, Dirk and Sandy were very interesting people. They were kind of hippie-ish, I guess.
They were like really hippies.
Say that. And they were into alternative lifestyle. But Dirk was a really brilliant guy. He had an engineering scientific background, I believe. And he was very into biotechnology, and he read voraciously. They had, you know, you go to their place, and their place was just like the stacks from an old book library. They're just stacks and stacks of magazines and books on the floor, and they read constantly, looking for anything that had to do with what we now call anti-aging medicine. And I got involved with them after their first book, Life Extension, which was a runaway bestseller. They sold over 2.5 million copies, and they were on New York Times bestseller list for well over a year.
Yeah.
But the medical establishment just condemned them. They were very, very cruel to them because they didn't understand. And, you know, these guys weren't doctors, they weren't university scientists, and so the medical establishment poo-pooed the heck out of them. And when I first read their book, you know, every doctor is handicapped with a medical education. And when they teach you, and in medical school, they don't make any bones about it. You know, there is the canon of medical science, and everything outside of that canon, outside those four walls of AMA, FDA, you know, NIH approved science, university approved science. Anything else is quackery and dangerous, and anyone who promotes it should be burnt at the stake as a heretic.
Yeah.
And it's not really an open system. But thank God we live in the day of the internet, because the internet is breaking that open, widely open. And that's why the incredible breakthroughs have come in healthcare over the last 20, really 25 years.
Yeah.
And it's been a huge boom for mankind, and it's really allowed the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine to do what we've done, because most of the information that we are involved with, that we teach, that, you know, we share with our colleagues around the world, is via the internet. If it wasn't for the internet, none of this could happen.
Right.
But Dirk and Sandy were before the internet,
Yeah.
and they were vilified as unscientific and, you know, unsubstantiated. You know, all the fancy words that they, you know, use to, you know, to poo-poo people that they don't like.
Sure.
So I was teaching medical school at the time, and one of my students came up to me with this book, and it was the, you know, Life Extension, the book that they wrote was huge. I mean, it was about it was about maybe 3 inches thick, and it was, I think, almost 900 pages, and half it was references. And it was thick, and it was dense, and it was written like a medical textbook. And he says, "What do you think about this?" And I just took one look at it, and I thumbed through. I go, this is boring. Why would you believe in this? And he says, no, Dr. Klatz, you really got to look at this thing, with open eyes. And I said, okay, I'll look it over. And then I started reading it. And once I started reading it, I was really surprised at the quality of the publication and how well they laid things out, and that everything they said was supported by published medical research. And I scratched my head and I said, how could this be? How could medicine have missed all these, wonderful things? How could conventional medicine have missed this? And I was kind of confused. And so I called Derek and Sandy on the phone. And I said, where'd you get this information? They said, well, we're in California, we're at UCLA, and we live in the library. And we're basically library researchers. And I said, well, that's nice, but you're making all kinds of claims here. What about, these, does this stuff work in people? And they go, well, yeah, we have hundreds of friends who are doing all this stuff, and it's working. And so that was a shocker for me. So I started trying it, and son of a gun, everything I tried worked. I mean, there were some things that didn't work quite as well, but there was nothing that didn't work, and there was no downside. I had no ill side effects. And I tried it in several dozen patients, and myself, and some of my students, and we got really incredible results. I became close with Dirk and Sandy because of it, and I helped them with some editing of future books that they were involved in. But they were really the very first people in the field. And it was because of their book that encouraged me to move into the field of anti-aging medicine. And so I got into anti-aging back in 1981 after the publication of Life Extension. And that's what really started me on that path. And I don't regret a day of it because it's a better way to practice medicine.
Yeah. It's the real way, right? Well, let's fast forward a little bit. We're hearing a lot of talk now about these crazy things called stem cells. And as a matter of fact, a mutual friend of ours, it's a scientist here in town, mentioned to me a couple weeks ago that he believes it's the end game in medicine. He believes that it's probably maybe the thing that treats almost everything in about 4 or 5 years.
Well, I hope he's right. I hope it will happen in 4 or 5 years. But he's certainly right in that stem cells are a major breakthrough.
Yeah.
And disease doesn't happen in your arm or your leg or your head or your nose. Disease happens at the cellular level. And so if you can repair and replace the cells, which is what stem cells are all about, they're the progenitor cells of the body uses to make new cells, because we're constantly turning over our cells.
Yeah.
There's no cell in your body that's really older than 7 years old.
That's what I heard. Yeah, our whole body replaces itself, right?
Exactly, and you're constantly doing it. And most cells in the body are turning over every year and a half. Some cells are turning over every 28 days, your blood cells.
That's important for psychology too, because if you've messed up your life, just wait 7 years, you'll be a whole new person.
Well, you don't even have to wait that long. Yeah. But that's quite true. Yeah. You are not the same you as you were just like 7 years ago, maybe even 5 years ago. Everything's being replaced or repaired. And so if you have a problem because of poor nutrition or poor lifestyle or bad energies or bad environment, if you move to a good environment, if you do all the right things, you can have not in completely a whole new you. I mean, wouldn't that be nice if we could be like Doctor Who in his Tarsus, what is it? Anyway, that phone booth that he flies around space in, the Doctor Who show, the science fiction show on public television. Well, anyway, it would be fantastic if we could just regenerate a brand new version of ourselves every 7 years. We can't quite do that, but we can certainly make big improvements and vast improvements on who and what we are right now. And with stem cell technology, which is essentially giving your body a boost of young, healthy cells that have that energetic potential to replace and repair cells, you know, there may be no limit to what the restorative capacity is, you know, of the human body.
Yeah, you know, I've heard stories of, especially people that have knee problems.
Oh, knees are easy.
You know, bone on bone, and they get injected with stem cells, and it grows back the cartilage, and
Right.
crazy things like this.
That's PRP, platelet-rich plasma.
Yeah.
And it works fantastic for orthopedic problems, for joints. I mean, even hips. And there are many orthopedic surgeons who are not too happy because almost 50% of knee replacements and knee surgeries are being obviated thanks to PRP and stem cells.
Wow, 50%.
That's the number I heard. In some practices, as much as 50%, and there could be more because we're just at the beginning of this technology. But that same type of stem cell replacing the cells of an organ are being used effectively now for heart disease, are being used effectively now for respiratory disease, for emphysema and bronchial disease. There is research going on for reversing diabetes.
Wow.
Okay, and also being used for Alzheimer's and neurodegenerative diseases, and even eye problems. I know one fellow in Chicago who makes stem cells from the patient's own blood, and who treats these stem cells. He creates new stem cells, and he makes eye drops out of it, and he's using the eye drops in people right now in experimental protocol for macular degeneration, and he's getting some incredible results.
Wow, it's amazing.
So it's hard to think of a problem that we have that would not be addressed by stem cells and cytokines and cell growth factors and platelet-rich plasma and these other technologies, which are brand new. I mean, these are brand new technologies, which, by the way, were one of the first organizations, the first societies to teach this technology was the A4M, the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. So I'm kind of proud of that.
Well, let me ask you something. We're about out of time. Man, this is such a fascinating subject. We could talk for hours and hours and wear you out. But in 5 years from now, tell me about Dr. Ron Klatz in 5 years.
Well, I hope to be 5 years younger in 5 years.
It's interesting you'd say that.
Yeah, no, I really do. You know, I'm feeling good. Not as good as I'd like to feel, but much better than I expected to feel. Mm-hmm. I'm in my 60s. I won't tell you how far into my 60s, but I'm doing very well, and I'm performing well, and there's really nothing that I can't do. I would like a little bit more energy, and I would like to be a lot more like I was when I was 25. And the amazing thing is, 10 years ago, that was an impossible goal. Today, it's so what? It's an obvious goal.
Yeah.
And I am convinced that in 5 years' time, 10 years at the max, there will be the technologies on board between stem cells, cytokines, new drug therapies, regenerative technologies, an entirely new form of medicine that's coming out of the box right now called frequency medicine, which is energetic medicine, which is actually treating the body with different frequencies of energy and resetting certain systems within the body. There are technologies off the shelf that can repair the immune system. There is, there are ways of enhancing. We used to say that the brain, when you were born with so many cells in your brain, and that was it, and you lost 10,000 cells a day, and it was a shrinking brain, and you were doomed to Alzheimer's eventually, or worse, or some other form of dementia. We're finding that's baloney too. The brain is able to regenerate itself. We're able to grow new brain tissue. We're able to grow new interconnections. We're able to utilize different areas of the brain and repurpose them for lost function. And so there's no reason why anyone who is alive and well and healthy listening to this show shouldn't expect to be better in 10 years than they are today.
Wow. Well, Dr. Ron Klatz, I'll tell you, it's just an honor to be here with you, and thank you for being on the show. And I can't wait to see what the next 5 years are going to bring for both of us.
It's my pleasure, and thank you for having me. And for the listeners out there, remember www.worldhealth,
Yes.
worldhealth.net, N-E-T, the official website of the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine.
Absolutely. And for you watching, we'll see you next week, same time, same station. Bye-bye, everybody.